Today is September the 3rd. It is 7 o'clock on the meeting of the Alstyne City Council Special Call meeting. Please come to order. If you will, please stand while John Jennings leads us in the pledge.
Let us pray. Our most heavenly Father, we come to you this evening in both praise and thanks. We thank you, Lord, for the blessings in our life which are many. We ask, Lord, that you look over our community and be with all of those within. We ask that you help us tonight as leaders of our community to work through the issues that we face and the betterment of the community and to help all those that live here. We ask, Lord, that you bless and watch over our armed forces. We ask, Lord, that you keep them safe from harm's way, bring them home safely. We ask, Lord, that you bless their families who also sacrifice every day. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the Texas flag?
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Do we have any citizens communication? No citizens communication, and we will go to number 5, which is a public hearing. This is a public hearing to hear comments for or against the City of Van Alstyne fiscal year 2013-2014 operating budget.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, we have a correction of legal ordinance page system over to EC. What's up? Oh, we're talking about the public hearing. I'm sorry. Well, it's over the Everybody's received a copy of the EDC corrected budget. Just wanted to verify that if there were any other issues besides the revenue being recorded twice. Should be happy to answer those questions. Otherwise, we'll move on to the general.
Go through the general fund.
While we're still
in the public hearing.
While we're still in the public hearing, if anybody wants to speak from the gallery.
Do we have any, yes, floor recognizing Shirley House.
Yes, I'm Shirley House, current president of the Friends of the Library. And these are my fellow friends here with us. We just want to be here in support of the library, and we want to tell you how much we appreciate council supporting the library. I thought I might tell you, I know Tracy has told you in the
others who would like to make a comment? Okay. At this time, if there are no other comments to be done, then we will consider this closing of our public hearing. And but do we still go to the 2013-14 operating budget?
No, ma'am. We'll go to number 6. I was on the wrong page. We can bring it back up in a moment. We conducted the public hearing. Now we're in the meeting portion, number 6.
Okay. Number 6, consider and take any action necessary regarding builder incentives. Mr. Baker,
Yes, ma'am.
I'll turn that over to you.
Mayor and Council, we had, back in the spring, I brought to you the recommendation of moving forward with keeping the half the tap fees in place and all the impact fees. Since then, we've needed to take a step towards putting those back in effect, not only for the upcoming budget, but to try and make sure we finish out this year with any builders, any permits that may be pulled, collecting those fees to try and offset that impact and to the property, the lots, and to the city, as well as the tapping of water and sewer lines. Any questions? We discussed it last time. We had plugged it into the rate study that was conducted. Showed where it would benefit us depending on how many lots we averaged out. My number at 90% and 70. I think that's where we ended up last time. Anything y'all like to discuss?
We did get an email that Mr. Morgan notified that there was an increase in.
Yes, ma'am. That's on the meter side. That's not necessarily tapping into the lines. But that's something for us to.
But it still goes on to the builder.
It still goes on to the builder. We're going to need to bring that to council. Make sure that that's where y'all want to go as far as the radio red meters and moving forward. We just wanted to see if we got any feedback from Gordon. We have not. It's pretty common practice. And Melissa and Anna, so I guess they didn't flinch. They're just keep on moving forward.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman Farmer, do you have any questions regarding this subject?
Yeah, you had said you were going to check with legal. Are there any complications with applying it early?
No, ma'am. Legal, Julie called me back, stated that in the last week, stated that there weren't any complications, that the impact of tap fees, the study had been performed for the impact fees. The tap fees are what they are. We need to reevaluate exactly what it does cost us to tap a line and manpower, and that's something we'll work with Steve to get you an updated cost. But implementing what was already in place, there isn't any issue. That's the question.
It can be effective immediately then?
Yes, ma'am.
When voted upon by council, or up or down? Okay, thank you.
Any questions, Councilman Smith?
Is there the same public notice issue?
She didn't, we didn't discuss that. She didn't state anything about having to put anything in the paper or anything. I mean, of course, I'll notify Horton and some of the other builders that this is the action that's been taken. We'll be reevaluating the tab and the impact fees moving forward, but they'll be restated.
Well, this will be effective for the entire town, not just
Yes, sir.
the whole town.
Yes, sir. Because it's a residential tap, and we waived it throughout, and not only Gordon that benefited, but Mr. Cooley, the other duplex that been put in over here on the northwest side of town. So we need to try and inform everybody.
Councilman Jennings?
Yes.
So we would effectively place back the previous rates as they were set, both impact and
Water, sewer, tap.
water, sewer, and tap.
Yes, sir.
And then we would do a reassessment, reevaluate actual cost to date or currently in these expenses. In all likelihood, they're not going to be going down. But after that reassessment, is it feasible to think that we would have an idea within 90 days, say the first quarter of next fiscal, what those rates could be going to?
The tap fees we can do pretty quickly. Because the tap fees are exactly what it takes for Steve to get it accomplished administratively, what's the paperwork and the time that's involved. So we can get the tap portion done. The impact fee is what's going to require the study, and that's where our engineering firm will come into play.
How many days do you think?
90 to 120.
Okay. So then, hopefully within the first quarter, maybe 30 days later, we can come back with a reassessment.
Well, there's a process. Okay, we have to tell you what they've asked for. We have to create a capital impact fee study. You have to do that and figure out what the capital CIP is for that. Get that approved through you and through the planning zoning commission and the council. Then we assess the rates based on that approved capital approval go forward. And then you have about 3 steps you have to walk through to officially change.
Is that assessment done purely on fixed cost within the city, or is that also based off maybe a comp that maybe the cities on it?
It's specific to now.
Specific to now. Is there any indication you see, knowing what the rates currently were, that we would come in under those amounts? Okay. Thank you.
So we'll be bringing to y'all tap fees long before we get to the impact fee.
Okay, so we're budgeting, we're working off the budget right now, reinstating on a very conservative number.
Councilman Moore, we're going over item number 6. Councilman Blank?
Am I understanding correctly that we could vote on it tonight?
Yes.
We could make a motion and vote on it tonight to go back to what our tap fees and impact fees were before?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Talked to legal, and she said that there wasn't any hiccup in addressing it.
What,
It
John?
did not have to wait until the council session
Okay.
after a special workshop.
And what you were talking about, John, was for the future, above and beyond that, to go back and reevaluate what they were.
If within 90 to 120 days, it's feasible that we could go back and actually be more revenue than what we're reinstating now, which is what most likely will be the case.
Okay, is there any further discussion from council?
Is there a cost, or what is the approximate cost to do the study for the improvement, or the increase?
Well, in the budget item, there's a $60,000 mapping and modeling for the water system. We've already begun the sewer system, so we have some numbers with that. We'll see some ancillary sewer numbers.
So that falls
your budget.
in that.
It's
so
already in the budget.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll move forward.
That concludes item number 6. Number 7, is there a motion that we adjourn from our... Oh, I asked, was there any further discussion? I didn't. Is there a motion at this time?
I motion that the city reinstate the impact and tap fees currently waived and reinstate the rates that they were at the time of
Effective.
effective immediately.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. Motion passed. Number 7, is there a motion that we adjourn from this city council special call meeting?
So moved.
So moved by Councilman Smith. Is there a second? Councilwoman Tarver. All those in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. Motion passed. This concludes our part of the special hearing. You are welcome to stay for our council workshop, our work session, which is next. This meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you. Okay. It says it starts at 7, but it doesn't. Okay. I will call call to order the City Council work session meeting. Today is Tuesday, September the 3rd. It is 7:17. Number 2, discussion regarding the 2013-14 fiscal year Economic Development Corporation budget. I believe we've had this input on this. Is there anything you would like to add?
No, ma'am, unless Kenita, I'm sorry I jumped the gun earlier. Kenita needs to come back up here if y'all have any questions.
What was the new net profit figure?
Would you like to come back to the table?
The total income was decreased by $14,640, which made the amended total $109,857.31. And that was by removing the duplicate, what we were receiving for lease for Vermont's. I placed that twice on the budget.
So the new proposed net income for 13-14 budget is 21,0744.
That is correct.
Do you have any questions for me? No, I don't. Any further questions, Councilman Smith? Councilman Jennings? Councilman Moore? Councilman Plank?
No.
Thank you very much. Next is item 3, discussion regarding the 2013-14 fiscal year City of Van Alstyne General Fund budget.
Mayor and Council, Jennifer prepared an updated version of the general fund, slightly different from what I handed out this past Friday. But if you have any questions on either one, be ready to get started and start with it. She'd also handed out a payroll budget as well, showing the percentage change in each department. 3 pages on the front end legal, and we'll have individual positions and salaries on the last 2 pages.
And these show the increase, or is that as it currently is, present or?
On the positions, ma'am, you'll see the 13 hourly rate, and then you'll see the 14 hourly rate. The increase doesn't take effect until the first full pay cycle in January. So we're not starting on updating or any pay for performance increases until the first year.
I'm going to ask the question again, if we have a shortfall in a budget,
Yes, sir.
where does the money come from to cover that shortfall? If somebody goes over budget on their budget that they were given to work in,
Well, if it's on the general fund side, then we have to identify exactly where we're going to pull from to keep that happening.
okay?
So it's an expansion. It's, I mean,
You
if we're
take-
short on revenue, then then we pull back on where we are on our current spending.
Okay. That hasn't happened. Admin alone, at the end of August 31st, you have 4.62 or 4.82% left in your budget, according to the information you gave us in our package.
Okay.
You still have a month to operate. You're going to spend more than you were budgeted to spend. Where does that money come from?
We're also still generating revenue on the revenue side. so that
Well,
overhead
I realize that, but you're in the hole as of August 31st. And you still have the renovation for City Hall, I assume, to pay for?
Yes, sir.
Has that been paid for yet?
No.
Okay, so that has to be paid
Yes, sir.
out of this current budget. When the sewer and water have a $200,000 shortfall in revenue, when the ambulance has a $400,000 or $350,000 shortfall in revenue, the expenses, according to this report that you gave us, have not been cut $350,000 for the ambulance. The revenue's not there, but the expenses have stayed relatively close to what was budgeted. Where do those shortfalls, where does the money come from for an almost $700,000 shortfall for city revenue this last year?
We don't have a $700,000 shortfall.
Okay, how much do you have?
We have $117,845.60.
Okay, according to this report, water and sewer both have almost a $200,000 less than what they're.
I understand what you're getting at, but the thing about it is expenditures have not stayed on par with where it was when we budgeted. Expenditures have pulled back. We pulled back on staffing. We pulled back on. To a degree,
yes.
To a degree, but we've pulled back to where currently we're $117,000 over. We have a month to make it, and the thing about it is we still have revenue coming in. We've pulled back, and all spending has stopped essentially.
Okay, let's say, for the sake of argument, 117, is that what you said,
Yes,
that
sir.
we're in the hole right now? If that stays the same at the end of this month, say it drops to only $100,000 short, where does that money come from?
Well, it comes out of our fund balance. Just like last year, if you look at the audit, we were over by $175,000. It cut into our fund balance. So this year we want to bring it back in line. We want to finish up as close to even as possible.
Can you balance the budget
By the end of the year,
by the end of this month?
I'm certainly working to, yes, sir.
What are the realistic probabilities of that?
The realistic probabilities are that more likely we're going to be closer to 40,000. But since we have had such a shortfall on the enterprise fund side and on the revenue side of the EMS because of the Medicare revalidation issues, we've pulled back. We've pulled back on staffing. Revenues have come in above and beyond on the admin side. I believe the library is about $20,000 under. We can walk through the revenue and expenditure statement if you'd like to, if that's where you want to start.
Well, we'll take the ambulance, August 31st. You have the year-to-date actual is $531,000. The budgeted amount, this is income, the budgeted, what we expected to make was $922,000, but so far we've only made $531,000.
Yes, sir. And if you look at that and you see that right now we're just shy of being $400,000 under on revenue, you can see where Interim Chief Smith has got us to where we're only $203,000 over. So he cut back significantly on staffing. He cut back significantly on purchases. So we haven't been operating as usual as if all the money's coming in. He has pulled back as much as possible, but provided the services that are needed not only for the city, but for us to continue to try and bring that revenue in.
But we have, according to these figures, and we still have another month, but we have a month for revenue, and then we have a month for expenses.
Yes, sir.
Both of them. You're short 350,400, whatever the total is, on revenue, but you're only short under budget 150,000 on expenses. So you haven't matched those.
I understand.
Decline in
It's a
revenue.
dance, and that's exactly what we've been doing.
So, to answer the question of where does the money come from, there's just that much money less in the checking account at the end of the year than there was when we started,
That's exactly right, sir.
is creating a budget. I guess the question would be for every department head is how much discipline do they feel like is expected from them to show that they can balance a budget?
There's a considerable amount. But the thing about it is, it's a plan moving forward. That plan changes, just like it did with the revenue. And as the revenue doesn't come in, you pull back on your staff, you pull back on your expenditures. And that's exactly what departments have been doing.
But there's no way to do dollar for dollar.
No, sir. There's so many moving parts in the organization. You have to try and identify where you can cut to make sure that you come in as close
Okay.
as possible.
The other question that I have is, as an example, the $922,000 that the ambulance service expected to make this year, that they will be considerably less than that,
Yes, sir.
no matter what happens this month. Is it realistic to think that that is a good starting budget figure for next year?
Okay. And going through a Medicare revalidation and getting all those elements taken care of and back in place, that's the number we came up with. That's what our billing company gave us as a good number. We're trying to do the best that we can to forecast what we're doing.
Okay, water and sewer are going to be in the same situation, that even though we had a considerable shortfall on our expectations of budget, is it realistic to start the next year saying, well, we didn't do it this year, but we're going to do it next year?
That's why we've been working with y'all on the base rate. That's one of the points that you were making last week, was we need to make sure that the base rate is what it's supposed to be, because the variables are consumption.
Is it, you gave me, you danced around the answer.
I don't think so, sir.
Is it realistic to believe that if you came up $200,000 short on a budget, that you'll be able to use that budget figure starting the next year and assume that you're not going to come up $200,000 short? Is it not sensible to reduce your expected income?
We did.
Well, it says on the starting budget, it's the same as what we ended with last year. I mean, I'm just evaluating the information you gave me.
That's not necessarily true, sir. If you go over to admin, where we are this year, the 1.1 million, we've reduced it 147,748.12. Our starting budget for next year in admin is anticipated to be $982,461.90. Over in the library, if you move over to 411, our expenditure totals for budget year 13 is $165,389.24. The adjusted from Tracy has brought us to $161,008.95. That's a reduction of $4,380.
Let's go to water
Okay.
and sewer.
All right.
The base budget that we're starting this year with, that we're starting to make decisions with of how we're going to spend money next year, is $933,000. That's the same amount that we had budgeted for last year. But we had a shortfall of revenue and you have expected to make 164,000 more than you expected to make last year. Should that 933 be lowered? A portion, since you didn't make it this year, if you didn't achieve your sales, is it not fair to anticipate that next year you might not make your sales?
Well, that
We can
decision
anticipate it,
made.
and we can add and subtract as far as what we're going to do. But the thing about it is, we've totally reevaluated the rate. We've taken a different approach to it. We've attacked the base rate.
You're changing rates and you're changing you're putting back in the thing we just passed, the idea of taking, fees and stuff like that that we
$200,000
weren't.
is a huge shortfall.
I agree.
And are we raising rates to accommodate $400,000 worth of shortfall? Or are we raising rates to accommodate the adjustments in spending that we have proposed of $1 million worth of equipment for public works? Are the rates to cover a shortfall, or are they to cover the additional expenses that are being suggested by department heads?
Why would they cover a shortfall? This year's this fiscal year, next year's
Well,
next
because
fiscal year.
Frank, in real life, you have to cover shortfalls. In real business, you have to do that.
I agree.
It's not
What real business are we not talking about?
that you just said, well, you don't cover shortfalls. You just take it out of your checking account.
But we haven't built anything in. We've shown you all the numbers on the rate for water and sewer. We discussed it last week. We started out with general fund. If y'all like to discuss general fund, we can move on to water and sewer here just a little bit. We did put it on the agenda to where y'all can discuss it. Are there any general fund questions?
I just think that anytime you have a substantial shortfall in revenue, which is a third of what you thought you were going to make,
Yes, sir.
is not there. How in the world can you expect to start the next year making that same amount of money when you experienced a shortfall?
By reevaluating the rate, sir.
That would be like if you owned a company and you double the price of you were able to double the price of your product, are you going to expect to make more profit the next year?
Billy, I
Even though
run a
you're short?
company.
Oh,
I
okay, so you never,
I don't work
increase
for
your
a salary.
product. You don't
I run
increase
a
the price of
company.
your product, right? Okay.
If you raise rates, or if you raise the price of your product, you have people not purchasing them.
That's a possibility, yeah. But
It's
they
more than
also-
a possibility.
It also might be because the other guy that used to produce your product went out of business. So there's no way of knowing what's going to happen in that business thing. But they do things like that, raise your budgets and stuff. It's not like cities are the only people in the world that raise budgets based on what they think is going to happen.
So to answer your question, sir, if we're a third down on revenue, and we're $100,000 apart, that's 2%. That's where we are. That's not a dance around the question.
You're making
We
sense.
evaluated the rate. I don't know what you're expecting as far as an answer is concerned. We're expecting a certain amount of expenditures. We're asking for a certain amount of revenue. Whatever you'd like to change would be fine with me. This is all about a discussion. Does anybody have anything on the general fund side? Because that's where the mayor has us on this topic.
On the sales tax revenue, can you go over again the $90,000 that you have there under admin, under adjusted? Sales tax.
5225,
Sales tax revenue, 5225,
that's
yes.
the 0.25%. Out of the full 1% that is variable, that goes into the street fund.
How, now, that never came to the city, did it?
Yes.
It always came to the city? I guess as a taxpayer, it was a rebate to me, and I'm getting less that's going to the streets, how does that go into admin?
You never received a check on sales tax. That money came into the city. We reported exactly what that amount was to the county. The county would offset your property tax by that amount. That's how it worked. The money always stayed in the general fund. The amount that we were sent by the state was reported to the county. That's what offsets your property taxes. So instead of being a full half a cent this year, it'll be a quarter of a cent. That's $90,000 that was pulled out of the admin, and it was moved over to the street fund.
Okay. Are there any more questions regarding the general fund? Are you talking admin or the whole kit in the middle?
We have the budget for the general fund, number 3.
Everything there, yeah.
Anything that's a 10 code on the left-hand column,
Yeah.
we're in the general fund.
That includes the fire EMS. I guess I do have, I've expressed my concern before, and I do want to reiterate it again. I am very concerned about the amount of debt this city is planning to take on this coming fiscal year, when we already have bonds that are around the $4 million plus. We have loans for equipment, and we're planning to take on, what, about 220 or 42 million more debt, and then increase the water rates as well. How can 3,000 people in a town, in this town, cover all that increased cost? I just don't see it as possible. To me, it just doesn't make sense to me that we can expect the citizens, and we're talking about 3,046 people. Now, is that all tax-paying people, or is that man, woman, and child?
No, that's a third of it is Caterpillar, Holt, that came to town, that may or may not have citizens that actually live here, the people that work here. They pay the property taxes.
No, I'm talking about.
They pay a certain amount on their inventory. So it is the property owners. It is a good portion of those 3046 that you mentioned, but it's also business owners that own business property here in town. It's sales tax revenue. I mean, it's any number of things. But the main thing is, I mean, we've got outdated equipment. We've got older equipment. We need to update our fleet. It's totally up to the council as far as how y'all view our equipment and where our needs are. You've ridden in some of these vehicles.
Yeah.
You've seen, us operate with some of this outdated equipment, and how we are understaffed.
But I don't think we can do it all in 1 year. And I just, like I wrote to you that, to purchase all new equipment in all 1 year means that, say 10 years down the line, if the equipment lasts that long, we're going to have to be replacing it all again at one time. I think incrementalism is a much better way, and also looking at some of the used equipment that is out there rather than purchasing all new equipment, because I just don't think this town can carry that much burden, that much tax, that much debt.
Well,
You wrote to me that, what is it, $251 is the amount of debt, and that's just from the loans. But if you include in what each citizen, the per capita, with the bond issues, we're talking about $1,460 some dollars. So add that, we're talking almost $2,000 plus the increased purchases. Will be over $2,000 per person in this town that each person would owe. And that's asking a lot, I think, of our citizens.
if that's the view of council and that's the opinion, then we can certainly pull back on some of these purchases. We're not replacing all the equipment in the city. We're replacing 2 Tahoes for police. We're replacing equipment over at the fire department where we have 2 ambulances that are still old. We have an engine that's still old. We have a brush truck that's still old. He's replacing not all the equipment over at Public Works, but a good portion of it. Parks is not getting 3 new mowers, they're getting 1. We've just got equipment that's worn out. And it is incrementalism because it's not going to be a 10-year loan to where for every piece of equipment where everything's wearing out at the same time. You do want to look at used stuff. When we get it back over to the enterprise fund, then Steve can speak to the email that you sent us as far as looking at state equipment from TxDOT. But the main thing is, on the general fund side, there's going to be more equipment that we're going to need to replace over the next few years as well. It is getting worn out.
Yeah.
It's equipment that serves the citizens. It's equipment that helps rebuild this town to where the new customers that are coming to town, they're gonna want updated infrastructure. You're gonna want updated infrastructure. Us continually fixing these breaks, us continually having to clean these old lines that are fractured, decayed, and destroyed is not going to get us where we need to be. And no one is going to want to come and be a part of this community if we're in a consistent state of failure.
But also, they're not going to want to come if they can't afford to live here.
Our tax rate's gone down almost 15 cents.
And water's going up by how much?
We talked about it last week, and we could look at it.
Tax rate went down because of a new neighbor, not because of anything we did fiscally within the city's boundaries.
But it's still a relief to the
It is.
It's still a relief to the taxpaying
But
citizens,
it's
regardless
not-
of how it went down.
It's not because of anything that the city has done.
It's still a relief to the citizen, that's what Councilman.
If we don't take care of the city, sir, how long do you think they're going to stay?
I would like to comment on it, since someone has mentioned the water rate. There was a very bad article in the paper.
We really need to wait till we get to the enterprise fund, sir.
Okay.
I have a question on this information that you gave us about debt. We had the $50,000 phone system that's almost paid for. We have the 2006 F-550 Bush fire truck that we're making payments on too.
That's actually misstated on the debt. That's engine 1. That was misstated on the debt sheet.
So it's not the brush fire truck.
No, it's engine 1, the one that we're proposing to replace.
I have a question on revenue in ambulance service. We're under contract to provide services to Tom Bean,
Tom Bean and
Hal,
Gunner,
Gunner,
not Hal,
not Hal, Gunner.
Gunner.
We are legally bound to those contracts, are we not?
It's a best faith effort, yes, sir.
So what are implications if the city is unable to respond as we should per those contracts?
We'd be in breach of contract.
There could be legal complications from that as
There
well.
could be. No, ma'am.
With their ambulances that were done.
Our primary ambulance has been in service. Primary ambulance is what provides 911 and EMS for Gunner, Tom Bean, as well as us. So that's the unit that steps up first when the call comes in. Our backup units that provide the transports, those come into play as far as the secondary units. They're not in the contract. They are that's why it is a best effort agreement.
So it's only 911.
Yes, ma'am.
How many ambulances do we have active right now?
3. We got Med 5 back last Friday. We haven't had any more complications.
Yes, Med 5 started
Leaking today?
Yes, so it has to go back to the shop.
Okay. So now we're back down to 2 units.
Back down to 2.
So we have a second unit that will provide transport and backup 911.
It seems to me it's in the best interest of the city if we're operating as a business and revenue producing business as far as fire and ambulance. It's in our best interest to keep our equipment in the best shape we possibly can.
Yes, sir. over the last couple of months when we've had Med 5s throughout, it's cost us a lot of money. Probably averaging around $2,000 to $3,000 a week. Just in lost transfers. And the 911 calls that we're not able to get to because we don't have a second ambulance or a third ambulance.
Do you have documentation of lost revenue, say, this last fiscal year?
It's very hard because every call pays different. So I couldn't tell you, which calls exactly we missed and how much they would have paid and if they would have paid, because we all know medical billing, we don't collect 100%. So.
But you have data with backup, maybe an average per call and an average collection, percentage-wise, and would you estimate we lost $100,000 last year? Conservatively?
I'd say conservative answer would be 70,000.
Did you say 911 calls we were not able to pay?
No, man, the national average is only 26% of 911 calls actually get paid. And then Medicare, being a federal agency, actually has the ability to only pay 20% of what you charge.
I thought you said that there were 700 calls we couldn't make because we didn't have.
Yeah, there are. When, say, somebody calls 911 and then the second person calls 911 and say our backup ambulance is on a transfer, or maybe it's after hours because we've got staffing down. We're going from 12 hours to 8-hour shifts. So if we get a second 911 call in, we have to call another agency to come. So we do miss some, yes we do. But the cities, we don't miss a whole lot, and we do a pretty good job of making the most of it.
Who covers those calls?
Various, depends on where it is. We've had Sherman, AMR, Light Ride, who's ever the closest to that call, Alstyne.
On the maintenance and street repairs, 580-6320.
Yes, sir.
The sales tax is 69. Well, it didn't have,
It won't have a 4-digit code yet,
We'll have a
sir.
4-digit code, but the 90,000 we're going to receive from the taxpayer vote.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain the reduction of 65 from last year's budget, Mr. White?
We went back, we tried to reduce it, stay in budget with the rest of the numbers, and still giving the money into the other accounts. But we're still going to do 90,000, still going to do 110,000 in street repairs. I've already worked up the next phase on street repairs. Come in about 110,000.
For that 110,000, what will we get in value or equivalent road repair that we got this year in 175,000?
Well, we actually only used 107,000 in road repairs this year.
Okay. So the 110 will exceed what you actually did in road work this year.
Plus the 90,000.
And we'll add the 90,000 which the taxpayers approved in the budget.
That is correct.
Okay, so there's a net gain
Yes.
feasibly of the $90,000 which the taxpayers approved.
Yes.
Okay.
Have you paid the county?
Yes. NPO.
Will that be paid this month, or was it paid before August 31st?
Now, we paid this month.
And that comes out of maintenance and repair streets?
Yes, sir.
And the amount of that is?
Just 107,000. I don't remember all, I know that it's probably
Close.
107,000.
107,000, okay.
When I get into some of the longer streets, it's gonna take me money.
So we have a payment of 107,000 this month.
Yes.
That'll go to your 6320 account.
Yes.
So that would bring your expenditures to 141, would it not?
Well, now, those, the 30,000 is where we actually went in and did some repairs on patches, gravel. Anytime we couldn't afford to, I hadn't found the contract with the county, so we're using a lot of gravel to fix some of the holes so we could actually get some service during the winter time. The cold mix doesn't work. You see what it did out here in front. I've never had like cold mix. It just doesn't work very well.
That's true, it should be 141. Yes, sir.
Should be.
Which line item is that on?
You're gonna see it in 63, 20.
Since 6320, if you look at revenues and expenditures, actually, it shows 34,200 a day, but they owe 100 and, what did you say,
107, yeah.
Yeah, so that's gonna bring the year to 141,200.
So if you take that, if you lower the budget for streets from 175 down to 110, you're only, if we as a city just matched what we got in the vote, in the street money that was voted on, you would only have $20,000 to spend on other street repairs. And this year you've already spent 34.
That's, like I said, that was using cold mix, which I'm not going to plan on doing that.
That's what I was asking. For the 110,000, you're gonna get more bang for the buck.
Yes.
Okay, that's what.
I mean, if you take the asphalt, you're talking about $900 a truckload heating cold mix.
Those were mainly repairs Steve had made before the county came in with their bid.
Right. So effectively, that's why I said effectively we get.
It's more efficiency.
Right. So it's a
Better
reduction
quality.
of better quality work, more efficient work for 110,000 and you got for 175 plus we got the 90,000.
Like I said, we really don't have the equipment to do it.
Okay, on the street budget on income, we talked about this last week, and I thought we had agreed to take it out. The $80,000 from gain on sale of assets, which is the front pothole machine. How much do we owe on that?
It's 79 something.
463.
Okay, is there somewhere in the expense that you're going to pay that off, or I mean, if you sell something for 80,000 that we owe 80,000 on, there's no net income in that.
Well, that'd be the other capital expenditures, I believe. Now it's over in the 580-6910 loan payment principal. You got the base budget, the 55-105-66, 79-463-18 is what we currently owe on the pothole truck. So that's where you would see an expense.
So the street department's not going to have any other expense on capital or loan payments?
No, we'd be paying that thing off. That was the only vehicle that we had that was in streets. It was on loan.
Steve, is the two pickups that you want to buy on this $1 million package that you're asking for, are those in sewer and water?
Yes, because we took personnel out of street, so I really don't need one vehicle sitting over the street.
Okay, well, I have a question about that when we get to sewer and water.
So if we assume it's realistic that we'll get 80,000 for the pothole truck,
We'll try our best.
Well, we won't take less than payoff, so.
We won't take less than payoff.
so what is the new employee listed under? What is it?
What we did was transfer employees out of the street over to sewer and water. Took two people out of the street, but one in the sewer and one in the water.
And that's the secretary?
No, man, these are people that actually utility workers.
So the secretary is listed under what?
They listed under sewer.
Okay. I have a question about the community center. I know you've got in here for the new tables, but tell me again what the repair and that you're going to do to the building. Was it the
Maintenance repair buildings, Jennifer will pull it up. It's the ceiling, it's the roof, replacing all the screws on top. They've got the rubber grommets that wear out over time. Replacing those rubber grommets to repair the seal, replacing the ceiling, and roof repair. Replace these 3 windows and the sills. Replace the ceiling, the flooring, paint, and trim.
And that'll be done by whom?
We have bids from 3 different contractors. Some came in lower for different things. The screws on the roof, I believe it was Lone Star. I believe their quote was like $500 to replace all the screws. As far as the ceiling, I don't recall exactly who the bidder was. But we had 3 different people bid, and so it's not one person came in lowest for each thing.
So these bids have already been put out?
What's that?
These bids have already been put out?
Yes, ma'am. So
It's
we
already
could bring
been
y'all,
put out
that
for
way we could bring
bids.
y'all numbers as far as what it takes to replace the ceiling and roof. So bids were out. We asked them if they'd honor them. They said they would. We'll see once we get our inventory. But we'll try to do it from the top down since we're going to use multiple vendors.
It's a big jump from $30 to $11,000. God.
When we talked about the damage that was done here by people in the groups that rented this, and you said there's nobody to come check after somebody, if there's multiple rentals per day, there's nobody here to check to see. Is there truly nobody that can come in here and look around and see that something's been torn off the wall? I mean, how long would that take?
We have a council member who lives just right over here that could come over and check. I'm kidding. Tim and Landon have been talking about it and talking about kind of what we talked about before, to where you have the clipboard and where if there's somebody available, dispatch, of course, can't leave dispatch. They're in charge of
Now,
communications.
dispatch can stand at the back door and smoke a cigarette
I understand.
and leave the console. Why can they not leave the console long enough to come over here and
We
make?
don't.
Well, we don't allow smoking inside these buildings.
We don't leave the console. We have to have someone come sit and dispatch. We are there down the hall, so if something happens, Tom's going to say, hey, I would be right back in. If we were to
So
completely
when
leave
she
the
was
building and
standing
come
there
over
with a
here,
portable radio and a notepad to make notes on what was being done,
there's still someone else.
there was somebody inside.
At one time, when this was first set up, it was part of the person who was in charge, who had the contract services, that they were in charge of having, being notified of who was renting it, what time it was being rented, and they would, part of their job was to, when that person's time was up, was to come up and check it and okay it for the next. And they could not get their deposit back until this particular person, who actually was Mr. Day, and until he came to City Hall and okayed it, they were not allowed to get their deposit back.
And we're looking at a process, and that's, the main thing is we don't want to incur any overtime just for somebody to come here and check it. So the main thing is we're trying to work with them and Landon, get a checklist, see who's available, have that person come over and verify, both the person that rented it out and the employee sign off on it, take it back over to dispatch. There may be that rare occurrence to where everybody's out on calls and we don't have somebody to do that, but we're trying to figure out what the lesser of two evils to get a system in place, because we don't want to put money into this place and keep
Yeah,
it where
that's awesome.
we have people coming out and we end up people tearing toilets off the walls. We have just wild things happening, and
House beds are gone.
so
Could we possibly charge $25 extra to the people that do it and give that person $25 to come up here and inspect it all the time?
we could, but the thing about it is we're not trying to put another fee on top of anybody either. So I know it's, it's a good place. We'd like for it to be a nice place. We'd like to keep it a nice place. If y'all want to consider a fee, we can do that. The main thing is, we're trying to figure out what it's going to take to make it to where we do have some accountability.
At the present time, you pay for every how many hours that you use it. You don't have anyone to check to see if your time is up or you don't want it, or you're still going, or
If it's,
there's a limit. I think there's a limit on when you rent it. Don't you rent it for so many hours?
Well, we can rent it for an unlimited number of hours. We just ask, like, the noise has to be down by a certain time. That's the only really, that and no alcohol, I think, are the only restrictions we have.
I'll ask Tracy, since we have the friends here. Have you considered what may be done for the revenue loss that you incurred with the contract with Grayson County College? I know Mr. Smith was talking about shortfalls, and we have $148,000 shortfall in the library.
Yeah, I mean, the only way to make up that kind of money would be to severely cut staff and therefore severely cut hours and service.
Have you not considered reducing the hours? As we discussed last time, the hours of operation, my understanding last year, a lot of the hours of operation was based on a contract with the college, which we know we have lost.
We have, and you'll see a revision in this one based on from the last one. I went through and I ran an entire spreadsheet, and we will be closing at 6 o'clock Monday through Thursday, which results in the reduction in salaries of $2,410.
Right.
Results in the reduction in the electricity and the gas as well. Also, I did a little research, I can show you here, of our library by comparison to the others nearby of the services and the rate of return that the state has determined in their report on the rate of return for every dollar spent in public libraries in Texas. So you can see Melissa's open more hours than us, and yet we still have 10,000 more circulation than they do. And a lot of that comes from the programs that we offer that bring people in the door and bring their attention to our library and the books that are there.
And one of the things that we do, this is one of the few functions, I think, in the city that services our young people.
It does. We have the best teens group I've seen. This is my 4th library to work in Texas. We have the best teams, the best friends group. It's amazing what goes on. I took an ad up today, and we actually did 45 programs for the public in June, July, and August, which is astounding with an attendance of 12,000.
You've done 45 programs.
We did 45 programs just this summer.
12,000 attendance in 45 programs.
We would be...
That's average of 266 people per event.
Well, some events have more than others, obviously. And it's not that many different citizens. We've had a lot of people in the library this summer. I mean, it's just a constant stream of people. We've offered computer classes. We have done one-on-one computer training. We had a big astronomy program. We've had 3 children's programs a week. We have family movies. I mean,
Can you remind us what, on contract services, what you reduced on that? That was your copy machine, last this year?
well, what I cut out, Mango Languages, which is our language learning database, which is $500 a year. I cut out, we got a lower quote on our copy machine, which, by the way, is going to be part of the revenue for next fiscal year. We can add in fax services for fee. We eliminated the we had a lease program for audiobooks, called McNaughton, and that was $738 a year, so we eliminated that. I mean, obviously, there are a few things that are going up that are still staying, but the vast majority of the contract stuff has been cut back.
Explain to me why on a grant thing, we have a grant revenue, 5,000 as potential income, but then we have a grant purchases for 6,000 is that the same grant? I thought a grant was...
It's the adjusted 5,000, it's a grant final budget of 6,000. We have gotten the Texas State Library and Archives Commission grant. This past year, we only got 1,000 in grant revenue to speak of. This year, we're going to have 6,000, but all the grant revenue has to be spent out. So the $1,000 I got last year, I'm not getting again, so it's not that I take the 6 I'm getting from Texas State Library and add another 1,000 for 7. We're expecting a total of 6,000 in grant revenue. Now, there's always the possibility of more coming in. It's just I haven't been awarded any other grants that I know of. Yeah.
I guess I just thought the grants were spent. I didn't realize they were an expense.
Well, you have to have a line item because when the money comes in, it has to go somewhere, and when the money goes out, it has to be accounted for somewhere. We can't just throw it into any expense line item. We have to have a grants purchases line item because of audit situations. You have to be able to show where it is and where it went to.
The machinery and equipment, you dropped 3,900.
Yes, we had planned last year. We got 2,000 from the budget this past year to replace 4 or 5 computers this year, and then we were going to do that 4 or 5 every year. But we had a private company donate 10 computers to us this year. So we were able to replace 10, which is 2 years in a row of computers. We still have quite a few that are pretty old, but I think we can put it off at least a year.
So we had a 71% drop in revenue, but only 2.6% decrease in expenditure.
If that's the way the numbers come out, yes, sir. I mean, like I said, the only way to completely offset that 35,000 is to drastically cut staff and operating hours, which cut your programs down. It's just a matter of where we, what kind of quality library do we want to have?
So it's the same question as what kind of quality ambulance service do we have?
Yeah, it's kind of right up there together.
How we want to serve the citizens.
Yeah, it costs money to serve citizens well.
You still have is it Friday when you're not open, but you have 2 people there for 8 hours each?
Yes.
Is that still in place?
Yes, and there are still some special programs that go on those days, but we're not open to the public. We both work all day, but we're not open to the public. Which means the computers are not on all day, and the lights are not on all day.
Before your contract services page, you have your budget summary, your Fund 10 on general fund. We do have a balanced budget currently with a small surplus of $2,000.
Under general fund.
That's strictly
Yes.
general fund.
These are all based off the figures we looked at last week on the...
No, this is the general
General
fund
fund.
two weeks
Okay.
ago.
Okay.
The revisions were made in the budget.
Okay.
We were over. We were over last time we came to discuss this with y'all.
payroll,
Okay.
and that is, there's an awful, certain areas have a lot of overtime, and I understand that, there are times whenever they're on a job that they can't stop and have to continue. But we don't have the money right now, and if we don't have it, we can't spend it. And my feeling is, why can't we have comp time then instead of overtime? I do that at the library.
Some departments do. It's not a great habit to get into. The issue is that sometimes you want to pay it out. The problem that you run into with doing comp time is the longer you hold on to that comp time, if you move into a new year and they do get a pay increase, well, when they call it comp time in, or if you have a comp time payout, they're getting paid that rate at a higher rate.
Well, most places, or many places, do not have a payout on that. It's either use or lose.
I don't know if they've changed the rules or not, but also some companies have problems with comp time in the idea that if you take a comp day and go somewhere or do something and you get hurt in an accident or something like that, it now is covered under workman's compensation because you should have been there. As far as they're concerned, you were there at work that day. And they can end up, I know at the Federal Reserve, they paid a pretty good fine for getting caught doing it one time. And the guy got hurt, and it was funny. They actually would request you not to leave town or not to go anywhere if you took your comp time because you might get the company in trouble, or you might, if you got hurt or something like that, it really got serious.
What I do is,
So I don't know if it's still out there.
I schedule the man on call 8 hours off on Friday. So we work 4 hours Sunday, 4 hours Saturday. Any other call, you may take another day off Thursday. That's what I do.
So it can work.
In some places,
Yeah.
in some departments. The water leak we had at 4 o'clock in the morning.
When it's at my house, you better be there. No, like I said, I know there are times whenever you can't help that, but there are situations where I think we ought to consider, based on the expenses that we're looking at incurring, that we need to look at ways that we can reduce salaries. In fact, I would like to see a freeze on salaries for this year, unless we can balance the budget, and a freeze on hiring.
The budget is balanced, but if you want to do if the council wants to do a freeze on salaries, we can certainly do that. But currently, the budget is balanced.
Yeah, but look at the increase you're trying to give in water rates to the citizens. I don't think that is fair.
We're not on that yet. We'll be on that here in just a little bit.
Yeah, but,
General-
I'm saying, you're saying the budget is balanced, but no, that is a concern to me.
I understand. But on the general fund side, we are balanced.
On communications, increasing salaries by 15,714, is that just everybody gets a raise? Or is that a new person or part-time person? And the other
Yeah,
question,
that is including a part-time person for IT and stuff, because we have so many legislators, there's so many laws we have to follow to keep all of this data we have to secure in the past.
okay, are we adding, are we making a part-time person a full-time person?
I've never had a part-time person before this.
Well, I noticed that the health was, you're going up 15,417 in salaries. The health insurance is going up 4,500.
That's going to be based on 4 employees. I believe that's general across the board.
$100 up a month for the 4 employees.
That's
per employee.
It's 4 employees. I think that's what you're
The
saying.
departments that are staying the same, you'll see that 24% increase correlate. Admin, communications.
And we haven't been able to get a better deal on insurance.
That was gonna be my question. Have you heard anything back from any other?
We heard back from Aetna, and they said that we could potentially see a decrease of $50 a person. but we've sent all of our information to them, and they're gonna give us a comprehensive quote. Again, we sent everything to TML, and TML just sent us a letter back, thanks but no thanks, we're not competitive. So Edna initially threw that bone out there that yes, you can save up to $50 a person, if we can, it's great.
We have to do a true census of
We have to do a true
the
census.
insured and that.
And so they're going to come in and do that. The second thing is checking with other cities to see what that have it, what their relationship and what their service has been. Are they staying with Aetna or are they going away from it? Because if Aetna denies a bunch of claims and causes a huge burden to us as far as claims not being paid, increasing our paperwork load on the admin side as far as what's requested, it might not be worthwhile, but we're certainly looking into it. But Aetna's the only one that's come back and said, yes, you could see a savings of up to $50. It's not, you could say a $50 savings per person, and this is important. So we're working on it.
Is that $50 per month, $50?
$50 per person per month.
Okay.
Considerable.
Is that what you had given us, 34 full-time and 22 part-time?
That sounds correct.
We're all part-time.
Fire department primarily. Public Works has two seasonal. I have one.
We're just talking about full-time.
Oh, full-time?
Full-time.
But I had asked where the part-time first
Okay.
because I didn't know.
And 34 full-time though.
34 full-time.
It's 33 now because we reduced the public works secretary to part-time, so 33.
Based upon y'all's feelings from the last year.
Okay, thank
Not
you.
general fund, but enterprise fund people.
In working budget, have you had time to put up the bulletin board yet for city council?
Yeah, it's not happening right now.
Not happening.
We're strictly trying to make sure we've got all this handled. But it's a good idea, and we're going to work on it.
Good. So that we can talk to each other without being in violation of Open Meetings Act.
Are there any more questions?
I'm sure there are, but.
Well, are there any more questions regarding the 2013-14 City of Van Alstyne General Fund budget? Are there any more questions at this time? Councilwoman Toiber.
I'm looking through my highlighted notes. Just a
Councilman
minute.
Smith.
Nope.
Councilman Jennings. Councilman Moore. Councilman Klein.
Nope.
Don't put any pressure on me.
Oh, but any pressure on you? We have all night.
That credit card discount in the municipal court, there was nothing in 13 and there is in 14.
Yes, I can explain that.
Oh, okay.
The prior, some people from quite a few years past, I guess, before this administration, and this is, anytime we swap a credit card in municipal court, the credit card company charges us a fee, a percentage of that. And so in the past, I don't know why, we discovered this last year during the audit, they were paying it out of a revenue account, and it should have come out of this.
Oh,
But one thing
okay.
we do have to do that helps offset that is only when people call on the phone, not in person, we charge them a $5 phone pay fee, convenience fee for paying over the phone. And it doesn't completely offset it, but it does help balance it.
Okay. Yes, and then the collection fees, that is 20,000 and there was nothing in 13.
Yes, collection fees are, again, that was another thing being paid out of a different account. We added a new line item. Our collection agency that past due, anytime a warrant gets over 60 days old, which the Texas legislature has a lot of place and new laws regarding what you have to do some sort of collections on, because they want their state forecast. Anyway, it's basically what it is. So anytime someone's case goes to collections, their fine amount increases by 30%, and that 30% goes to the collection agency, and we still get our amount. And that's what the law allows, and that's pretty standard practice. So this is that 30% if they ever pay it to the court directly, we have to forward the collection agency their portion. One thing this doesn't show is we usually get anywhere from a $5,000 to an $8,000 check per month from the collection agency that just rolls into the general revenue.
Okay. And that was going elsewhere in the account, huh?
Yeah, we've had them since, I believe, 11.
It's basically being taken out of the wrong line item. This is
Yeah.
more transparency on
Yeah.
where the money is like that.
We're trying to make it
Good, yeah.
out there.
Just see the news thing from the comptroller on transparency that came out today.
We will have a new court cost that we will, although we were going to start collecting on January 1st. Effective September 1st, some of the mandatory fine amounts have changed for some violations. So that could adjust our revenue a little bit, but not very much.
Okay, overtime, yeah, I talked about that. And versus comp time versus whatever. Okay, on the website hosting and support, and this is under contract services, and it's, I guess, in a couple of the areas. What is covered under the website hosting and support, the support side? Because like I pointed out, that there are so many things on our website that just aren't there and should be, and makes it bad if someone pulls up our website and it's not a bad link or coming soon or all these things. We're paying $1,200 in 400-6703, and there's a couple other places where we pay website support, and I was just wondering who does what, and what does that cover?
Okay, on the website support, the main page, which I kind of have access over, assigning each department that was responsible for their own page. It is set up so every user, for example, library has access to the library page.
Theirs is pretty good.
So forth. Yeah, every department has access to their own page. And then the master thing is hosted by them. They help with any kind of tech support, any kind of error, anything like that. If there's a broken link,
yeah, well, we
or
do
something
have a
says
few of
coming
them.
soon, then that's something for that individual department. That they may not realize it. They may just think, hey, your link's broken.
Do I need to send my list to you instead of to the city manager?
If you have a list of stuff not working, feel free to send it to me, and I can try to see if I can assist anything.
Yeah, because I'm on EDC, and it really looks bad if someone goes onto our website and it says they're supposed to have minutes and agenda, and there's just the agenda.
Now, the EDC website is not maintained.
No, theirs is current, right? EDC and CDC is current.
And I believe we have it.
No. Okay.
And we just have a link from our site to take you over to their site.
Okay, well, I'll get with you then on the ones that I went through and thought, geez, this is a poor representation of our town.
And our website's fairly young. We haven't even had it up and going a whole year yet. And it is like a huge puzzle with all of these links that have to work just perfect. So a lot of that's trial and error, and I think all the departments are learning. And sometimes there's error that you don't realize, you don't even realize.
Yeah.
So.
Until someone from outside goes in and looks, and then, okay, well, great, I'll get with you after.
I have one other question, ma'am.
Oh, okay, please, go
Frank,
ahead.
you said our current shortfall is 117, that's 2.6%. What do you project that to be by the end of fiscal?
End of fiscal year, it's going to be
I'll
closer
say
to
70-something thousand.
Where are we gonna be as far as
What you
shortfall?
projected, yeah, what you projected?
Project we're gonna be around 40 to 60,000.
40 to 60.
We've still got franchise fees coming in, sales tax.
Right.
Permits. Some property tax, but it's not much.
And last year's was 175,000 short. Projected
I believe so. I'd have to
40 to 60.
go back and look at the audit from last year.
And what was the big expense you had that you told us about that? Was it street, was it, yeah, what was that?
It's the county, it's the streets.
Yeah, that's right. It's 100%.
Right.
So that'll be on the general fund side.
Okay, one last question then, if you finish. Okay. On the senior center, it has activities coordinator, and this is contract service for 5,000. That's the salary for, or the salary for the coordinator or activities director or whatever.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have time, say, to check on the board and who's responsible and?
I've spoken with Robert Jaska. He said he wasn't able to come and talk to y'all tonight. He wants to come and meet with me and see what the questions are.
Okay.
Back to the board. And there isn't any formal agreement in place. Y'all had also asked about the Meals on Wheels. And Meals on Wheels wants to send us agreement now because there hadn't been an agreement in place as far as what Meals on Wheels handles and pays for and what the city pays for. So
Clarification
I
and
could-
transparency.
Sure. So the main thing is getting with Robert, seeing what the relationship has been, what it is now, because I don't think there's really any communication whatsoever as far as what they expect or what they want.
Yeah, well, when I go there and eat, I get hit upon, like, who's on the board, what's on, who does what, why isn't she doing this and that, and I don't know.
I would figure they would know who the board was.
So-
But we can,
So you'll come back with us later and let us know what Mr. Jessica.
I'll encourage him to come to one of our meetings and explain exactly what the relationship is and what it has been. So
Yeah.
that way you
And
can
what
have
our
your questions answered.
responsibility is with the agreement with Moody.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can you itemize a little bit more on the administration budget for miscellaneous expense? You got $28,000 on miscellaneous.
What are we looking at, sir?
Admin, I'm looking at the financials.
Oh, you're looking at revenue. Okay.
Ending August 31st. Budget's $1,200 and we've got $28,000.
That was what I discussed with you 2 weeks ago about the county wouldn't do the roads inside the cemetery. That we had to be the intermediary. So you'll see the correlation of the funds coming in up at the top on miscellaneous revenue, $10,454.99. Then you'll see the miscellaneous expenditure, $10,469.43.
Okay, so that's 10 of the 28.
10 of the 28. What?
How much was the cemetery thing?
Should have been 28, 282, 62. It wasn't. It was Oh, 4th of July too. And we put the 4th of July funds in the miscellaneous revenue also.
Where did you expense out the returning money to the senior fund?
I'll have to go back and look. I don't remember that. I don't remember what line item we did that to.
time if I do. No, I have no further questions.
If there are no more questions and there is no more discussion, do you have any more questions before we move on? No. No, not adjourned. We go to number 4, which is discussion regarding 2013 physical and enterprise fund budget. So that's water and sewer.
There's no welcome to start.
Do you have any more questions for the library before I go to that?
No, we're at the enterprise.
Mayor,
Off the hook.
Thank you for your time.
let's see.
I sent it down just to say, this doesn't
Thank
work.
you. Thank you all for your time. Okay, now, the enterprise fund budget.
Mayor and Council, if you look on your summary page again, towards the back, Fund 60, water and sewer, revenues over expenses for $180,000 the good. That $180,000 is the depreciation fund. This is based upon the discussion from last week. The main thing is to address any questions that y'all may have come up between us gaining a feeling on the water and sewer fund, and if y'all wanted to discuss any modifications or if there's anything that needed to be addressed.
I had a question on the pickups.
Okay.
They're going to be mortgaged for 10 years.
Yes.
Will they last 10 years?
Sure. I got one that does.
Realistically, I mean, you talked about the rough service and, we phase out police cars with much less than 10 years. So
Yeah. Well, you know,
my concern is mortgaging something that's not going to last the length of the mortgage.
either that, we'd have to put it back into the budget. And that's realistic. I mean, if you take care of a vehicle, yeah, you can go 10 years. But if you don't take care of the condition of some of these trucks here, that's 8 years old, well, like they've been rolled in a demolition truck, to be honest with you.
My concern was when you want $1 million for new equipment, you put two items in there that are relatively inexpensive compared to everything else. But my question is, can you mortgage a piece of equipment that will not last through the end of the mortgage?
If financial,
Well, but as far as the loan's concerned, they won't grant a loan for a vehicle that they believe won't last the full time. If it goes with a Dodge or a Chevy, and maybe that, well, like Dodge does 200,000,
yeah.
but Chevy only does 500,000. If he buys Dodges, if that's what he has in there, then they'll be under warranty as far as powertrain's concerned for the life of the loan. If not, then we'll have increased maintenance on the vehicles as they wear out.
So if you buy a Dodge,
Don't last as long
they
as
will
those.
you'll have a warranty for the length of the mortgage?
They do have 10-year,
10, 100,000?
10 to 100,000. And our vehicle's never gonna hit 100,000. We've broken them closer to 10. I know we got one that's fairly good shape, still probably at 7, almost 8 years out.
How many years?
7 or 8 years out.
I just have a concern about balance due when the truck's already been
Yeah, I do too.
put in the salvage yard. Or trading it in on when it's still technically in one.
What's the depreciation rate on vehicles for the city in a county? We're going to mortgage something for 10 years. What's the depreciation? Is it 10 years?
I think some of it's 7.
That's a good
I was
question.
going to say, most of the time in a county is 7 years.
I pull some depreciation on some of it. Some of it was 7, but some of it was 15, some was 25.
Good deal.
You get into your heavier equipment, it's got a longer depreciation rate.
They're not picking.
I think
To the,
Did we look at it? I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Did we look at an interest rate compared 7 year, say an 84 month compared to 120 month?
actually, we had, I think, Texas Star would only do one for 7 years. I think it was almost 4%.
What's the interest on the 10 year?
3.7.
Really?
Warranty on 5 years.
Is it 500,000? Okay, so then the 10. Okay, so it's the same Chevy.
I know one of them does.
Chevy and Dodge do. I'm not Dodge, 10. Chevy's nice, but maybe Toyota, but not
Dodge got the best buy board prices. And they've seen it do real well on the best buy boards.
Who's that? Don?
Yeah.
You running gas or diesel?
Gas,
Do you consider diesel?
yes,
Higher?
yes. About 4,000.
That much?
Yeah. But you're talking about long life.
Right.
I even looked at diesel for lawnmowers.
Right. I've done
And
that.
they were, they go from 8,000 to 12,000 for a diesel lawnmower.
I used to work with that. I haven't done it. Right. Well, I tell you what, if you're looking at 10 year mortgages and you're looking at long term, maybe something to consider. I mean, if you're looking at $4,000 spread out over 10 years at 3.something%. You put 200-something thousand in diesel. Just thoughts.
Diesel fuel cost right now is
Well, yeah, it's about 10 cents, about 10 cents more.
Fuel mileage is about 30% more, which offsets the price increase.
Probably what kills our trucks the most is the towing, the weights we have to tow sometimes. Diesel people more than
And the two that you had on your list, they are gas.
There are gas, their largest gas, that'd be the heaviest front.
3/4 to 1 ton.
They're 3/4. Those are big 3/4.
When did you expect to, providing council passes the budget, when did you expect to acquire this?
Whenever I'm directed to.
If we were able to go through the reevaluation of the impact and tap fees and see if there was an opportunity for possible some additional revenue, it'd be worth waiting 120 days possibly to
I mean, we make it do right now.
see if we could make feasible.
I mean, as far as equipment and stuff, we're still,
You could make it 120 days.
yeah, we're renting, mini excavators, skid steers. The concrete's all under that gold, and the biggest thing's gonna hang us one day if we're not careful. Is trench safety and, your appliance space. It's mandated by law, we should already have it, but we don't have it.
On the spreadsheet that you sent out that's supposed to be a duplicate of this,
Yes, sir.
the numbers don't come out the same way, so
Oh,
are you
no?
sure this one's right?
Oh, yeah, it's not a duplicate. We've made some corrections.
The difference I see is in the depreciation value, and this is lower, which raises it. The issue I have that I started to bring up a while ago, Mr. Frank, is the article in the paper was very misleading because the city is not considering a 15% increase. Those percentages do not add across.
Talked to Rodney today, and talking about, well, the raises across the board didn't equal 141,000. And also, it wasn't 15%, it was 7 on the base, and I thought it was 8, and now it's 9 on the 5,000.
But the overall increase is 9%.
It is.
Because
And
the
so-
7 carries over into 5,000 gallons, you don't add it.
He said he had another appointment, but he was going to get with me tomorrow, and we were going to walk through clarifying exactly what it was that was stated.
Has anybody else given any more thought to the concept of not really shooting for as high a depreciation, but instead, I think we had one of the schemes where the lower income people, the ones that had under 5,000, didn't have any increase in their rates. They were going to stay constant. And then we would just gain whatever we gained. And if the prediction come through that you're going to get more than 70 houses built, then you're going to gain more that goes into depreciation. You may get just as much money as you wanted to get to start out with. Or you may get nothing in depreciation, don't know. But it would be, that way we would at least get equal to what we needed to run the department. We just wouldn't be having extra money put away. Since we did raise them last year, I'd like to see us not raise them again.
Check on the legality of being partial to one group and giving special consideration to one demographic.
I had checked on that with Julie. But,
I think you're gonna make it awfully complicated when you start piecemealing that.
everybody's going to bring their grandmother home.
Grandmother lives here.
No, but I mean,
But if it's not in grandmother's name, it doesn't matter.
I dragged her up there.
Yeah.
But you know, a lot of people, I mean, it's,
But
the main thing is.
But you know, there's gonna be people like that in anything that you do.
Sure.
So, then they'll always, some that aren't.
Can you make a copy of that and send it to me? Because I can't see all that.
Okay. I sent it out. I guess it wasn't the same one Jennifer had, so I can send it back out
Okay.
to council, and you know, not a problem.
I
This is just the
didn't get
most
it.
up to date. I made some corrections in salaries specifically, so.
I had
And then
calls
also a
today from
correction in,
people that,
in here
their
before,
emails
it
were
was, it had
rejected, so I don't know what's going on.
stated the garbage expense, and it didn't consider that that is revenue generated from another source, so I added that in there. And I changed the depreciation to 180 just to keep the 7% increase. But I know when we left here last, I think we left it at 150. So, I mean,
Well,
certainly.
the one you
open to
sent out is
adjustment.
220.
Right.
Here's where the misconception comes in. And I think Jim wanted to mention he didn't have problems with the 7% increase. The 7 only shows up on your base rate. And I think what Jim was looking at was a 7 total. In other words, it would carry over to your 5,000 gallons with a 7%.
Well, 7% on base. That's guaranteed.
Well,
And then you can increase the
the other, right.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, okay.
The rate for the water though is more than 7% increase. It's going from 188 to 250.
Well, but the thing is, yeah, but sewers are going down from 259 to 2, or from 2 something other to 250. It actually went down 25 cents, 295, I think. We'll scroll up. Jennifer. Yeah, it was 259. It's going to 250. So see, it's actually going down. So that's yeah. You can't.
So sewer and water are the same on the?
Yes,
okay.
yes, that's where you get it, that's, you know, it's, what you're doing is you're guaranteed a base rate or a fixed income, which we need, and the per gallon increased, you can't look at it at a 30-something percent, or I don't look at it as a 30-something percent from 188 to 250. You have to look at it as a total percentage, which is 9%. A basic bill with up to 5,000 gallons of water, or maximum of 5,000 gallons of water, is going to be $7 a month. It's 23 cents a day. I mean, that's the way I see that, just as it is right there. Is not seeing a reason to me at all. I really don't. And I think the city, I think it's evident by what we're talking about tonight that we need to start building depreciation. This city needs a revenue. That we need not revenue. We need a reserve in the worst means. And this is a way to start building that reserve. And a $7 increase for 5,000 gallons, which is going to give, I forget how many percent of the customer, I think it's like 70%. 23 cents a day is not a lot of money to anyone, I don't believe.
So what we're talking about though is a $7 increase on the base rate.
To total bill.
$7 per month.
$7 per month, total bill.
If you use
Times about
5,000.
$84.
If you use 5,000 a month. If you
The average one uses
If you use
7,000.
2,000, it'd be less. It'd be 3 times $2.50, it'd be $7.50.
Now, if
The total bill, instead of 88, it'd be 81.
y'all brought up a question last week about how this can impact the school district.
Yes.
I sent this over to Dr. Speeds, he's going to get with Steve and I, and our utility billing clerk's going to work up a formula for them as far as what they can expect as far as an increase is concerned. He's discussed wanting to possibly reduce some meters down in size, that he doesn't necessarily need that flow in the building. The only thing you won't be able to reduce down are his fire meters. But the thing about it is, if we continue the program we did last year, which is the base rate for fire, it's a non-issue for them anyway, unless they have an event or they have a test at the facility. So we are trying to address that with the school district, so that way we don't have that kind of, poor relationship with them.
Asking about waiting 120 days on buying the trucks or the whole wish list of equipment?
Oh, wow. The trucks just came to mind. I mean, there may be equipment that we've got now, but, you know, we have pickups that we can make last 120 days. And we got into this and we saw that revenues were better than projected. So then after we've done the feasibility study, you know, the impact, so an impact fee could be tremendously greater than what we projected in the budget, because there may be an additional, just throwing a number of $100,000 over a 10-year mortgage on a pickup. It's $4,000 per vehicle. It'd be worth waiting 120 days to see if we had an additional $100,000.
And the mowers for,
Not gonna need mowers for next year.
so we can wait on the mowers too. I mean, those are pretty small dollars
Okay,
compared
we
to
could actually, if you want to do it, ask to see what the 7 year. See what 7 year one.
I'm shocked that 10 is less interest than 7.
You got competing quotes from different banks. Some banks looked at the equipment and said, we'll do a 10-year note. I think Wayne Mark did 12. I think it started at 7. And we also looked at government capital.
I mean, it's basic accounting principle. You should match your mortgage rates to at least your depreciation. If it's 7 years on vehicles, we should max out 7 years. And I think if you went diesel, I think you could get 7 years, well over 200,000 miles. I don't know what you put on the vehicle.
Probably around, I think it was 30, 30,000.
So what direction are you wanting to to
Oh, that'll be up to,
hold off on the?
once we pass the budget, that'd be the department head decision. That's Mr. White's decision. He wants to repick it. He gets the money, he's got the money.
Well, if to do it economically.
Oh, yeah, I think he can do that.
I checked into some of the questions on e-billing, and Assist, our current software provider, they do offer e-billing. It's a base charge of $10 per month to the city, and then they would charge the city 8 cents per bill. That's electronically transferred, I guess, to the customer. And what they do is it allows the bill recipient to view the utility bill on a secure server. They'll have an account number and a PIN. They're automatically sent an email when the e-bill is available for them to view, and then they can be printed or downloaded as a PDF and stored. And the e-bills remain online until the next billing cycle, so you'd be able to see it for the full month until we process the bills. I said it would go in an email, and you'd have a link to, you click on the link to go to it's a web-based, secure web-based server where you'd be able to view the bill.
Would the people be able to pay the bill on there?
They can pay their bill online the same way that they do now, so that fee would still be there. They said that they are working on the ability to charge that fee back to the city rather than it be on the customer. Just to give you an idea, the convenience fees that they have charged from 10/1 of 2012 to August 23rd of this year, they have charged almost $2,400 in convenience fees. They also
On the current paid by credit card?
right online, the online credit cards where you're charged that 3%, and then I think it's 35 cents. And asked if they work with any other credit card companies. They still don't. They only work with the one that we're currently with. I guess that
The city pays a percentage of that in addition to the convenience fee? I mean, there's still points?
if you pay your bill online, we just get your new balance or whatever you chose to pay us, and they keep all of those fees that they charge you.
And they don't come in at the end of the month and charge you
No.
Usage fee?
No. I think that was all.
If we decide to change the rates for is that something we vote on separate of the budget, or is that something just a part of the budget?
As far as adopting these rates?
Yeah.
Well, it would be, y'all would adopt these rates as far as enterprise fund is concerned.
But I mean, would we
There's a
adopt this?
separate ordinance to establish the rates.
Okay, so we would have to do this separate.
Just like your budget.
Okay.
So, yeah, please send me copies.
Okay.
Me too.
Send to everybody.
So this budget we're looking at here, Frank's based off the 180,000, is that 180,000?
Yes, sir, that's the depreciation fund.
Which would be our reserve.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Councilman White? Councilman Miller? Councilman Jennings? Councilman
Why is it called the Enterprise Fund, or Enterprise whatever?
I don't know.
It's supposed to be self-supporting. So even though the general fund's supported by property taxes, but it has any other number of revenues like sales tax and things like that, the enterprise fund is supposed to be based solely upon your spending. You get so much for services, you spend so much for services. Where on the general fund side, the library really doesn't tend to, it's an enhancement to the city, and it's supposed to bring enrichment to the community, but it's not supposed to generate revenue.
Museums and.
Well, and typically police and fire don't typically generate revenue either, but being a small town, being, us providing services to other small towns, but yet working to recoup the, Grambling?
No.
Did I get off subject?
No, I just think it's funny because they're not supposed to.
They're not supposed,
support-
well, they're not supposed to.
support
The
the
thing
fund
about
that
it
they
is,
do.
we have a community that actually, we provide services to ourselves, and we have top-notch police and fire, and the fire includes the EMS, we provide to other communities, and they see the benefit, and the main thing is, the quid pro quo of it is we're supposed to see those, ambulance revenues back.
And the police department does not create revenue.
That is what.
It is the court creates the revenue.
Well, and that's true, but the thing about it is, they work hand in hand, and it's not meant to generate revenue so we can have, staffing's been cut back the last 2 years in the police department. They don't run that power shift or anything like that. They do keep the highway safe, and they keep the teams. So the thing about it is, enterprise fund, to get back to your question, the element of it is, you're supposed to pay for what you're getting. So that's where we're trying. We made some huge strides this year on work. The big problem is we've done some big projects. So when we're running short on revenue, we've got to cut back on the smaller things, and the smaller things are people and smaller projects. And so we have cut back on, Steve has cut back on staffing. He has cut back on smaller projects, and that's why we still have potholes in certain areas of town, because we weren't able to address everything. But the big
Especially since the machine doesn't work.
and we don't, because he's fixing so many leaks.
Sure.
He doesn't have the staff.
Yeah,
He doesn't have the
I
staff to go
understand
through the
that,
potholes but the thing about it is, it's supposed to support what you're paying for.
Okay.
Enterprise funds also fall under different guidelines. For example, if you wanted to raise the property taxes, you fall under the state guidelines of what you can raise them to, or you have to go to the voters.
Right.
Voters say. Whereas enterprise funds fall under the guideline that you can charge the cost of service. So you can adjust the rates with the council's purview as opposed to going to the voters and having them approve a rate increase. But because of that, it falls under the guideline, as Frank mentioned, that you're supposed to only spend that money on that service. So you're not supposed to cross the boundary.
They're going to dig into general fund and say, hey, okay.
And that's not illegal. I mean, there are some cities, believe it or not, that actually do subsidize the water bill with the general fund. It usually happens the other way. Usually cities see the water fund's doing good, they got some extra money, let's take it. That's more common. But it does give the council the authority to meet their objectives and provide the service and maintain the rates at the cost of service, as opposed to having to go get the voters to approve a rate increase.
When the state puts up the proposition at the election with the water going into the rainy day fund to get the water, $2 million or whatever, will that have an effect on water rates? It won't come down?
That money's not a grant. That money is set aside for loans. And so
we get a loan?
Municipalities, absolutely. Cities and water authorities and municipalities will be able to go and borrow money for water projects, and they'll pay that money back. And so that's the misconception of some of the people that are talking about that money. It's not money
it's supposed to be a revolving fund.
It's not the money the state's going to give out.
No, it's a revolving fund.
It's just setting that money up to make it more available for people to do water projects, to keep water flowing and make sure that people have water.
Okay, then.
No further questions?
Okay, I have one question.
Okay. Don't adjourn. Steve, just to address your questions. Steve looked into your question as far as why don't we look at the TxDOT equipment. And so he went through and did an assessment. So he's going to tell you all about that very quick.
Looking at this was a list that was downloaded 9/2/13 just for the vehicles.
Was it 600 vehicles or something?
Well, they hadn't finished off downloading them all.
Okay.
But right now, what's on there, it starts with a 1999 Ford 3/4 ton. It says vehicle shakes when idling and driving. It's in poor condition. 1999 Ford 3/4 ton, needs brake works, vibration, in fair condition. 2002 Ford, vehicle is not operable. It's in fair condition. I don't know how it can be in fair condition.
It's not operable.
It looks good.
Looks good.
Good body work.
2002 Ford F-150 needs repair of differential and brakes. It's in fair condition. And that's an expensive repair. 2002 Ford F-150 headlights can only be turned on with a pair of pliers and doors stuck.
Sounds like the fire.
I like that one.
The fire truck that jiggle the two wires.
You can't go back, what were you saying about 08? You can't buy parts for?
No, on big equipment, anything that's required by DOT.
Yeah, they're
And I can get to that one.
crush the vehicles, things that you have to buy new.
2001 four-wheel drive, runs rough, but four-wheel drive don't work. Chevy Malibu, small scratches, dents, it's in poor condition. F-250 Ford, this is the newest one on this list, is 250. And it's a small cab, moderate vibration with brake applied. Driving down the road has vibration, needs wash fluid, driver door sticks and won't open.
Climb out the window.
And they don't even give their asking price. But they give the price that they paid for it in 2000 or 98. Most of what I've seen in here is stuff that they don't want to spend money on. And you get into the heavy equipment, they got dump trucks, but they're in the same shape that we were. They got a 19. That's right. It's a 1975 Ford tractor they're trying to sell. Asking price $500.
Well, that might be collectible.
So, yeah. But they had a dump truck in here for it was a it was a 1978 dump truck. So they've already hit the same 1988 dump truck. And same thing on a flatbed, and 1997 Ford dump truck, asking price $1,000. They can't get parts for them either, so.
Okay.
Everything that I found looks like it'd be cost more maintenance. And they're not guaranteed to shake the tires. Some of them they say you have to come get because they won't drive. But I did go on there, this is what's posted right now.
Okay. Like I said, whenever that came out from Tech Stock, they had 1,600 vehicles and they were getting rid of 600 of them.
I do know that, and they hadn't been placed on there yet, they've got a lot of Crown Vics that's coming on. I know Crown Vics was it Crowns or Fords had the brake problems.
Crown Vic is the Caprice was the Chevy. Crown Vic,
It's Ford.
Yeah, it's a Ford.
I think it was a brake
It had
rotor.
brake problems, the Caprices are what have the fuel tank problems.
Yeah, and they were hard to handle. But I know back in another city, we ran into the brake rotors would come off on the Crown Vics in Pursuit, and that was the biggest one. But I mean, everything I ever dealt with in state Arkansas the same way. They give you out this list, you go up there and you look at it, man, this really needs to go to the wrecking yard.
Well, here comes the crusher, huh?
But I did go look at it. And,
Good. I mean, that's, I saw that, it came in,
and federal surplus is the same way, it's wore out.
yeah.
I looked at federal surplus, they didn't have any small vehicles. And the tractors and stuff they had, some of them were in the 1960s.
Federal surplus did have some Tahoes there.
Need a gun, they got good deals on those.
That won't sell it to you.
On the general fund side, we have to have our required hearings for adoption of the tax rate. On the enterprise fund side, we don't have to have any hearings unless council wants to have hearings on the utility invite the public, and you want to hear what they have to say, have the hearings, if you don't. It's strictly up to what's the feelings of council. I mean, I really don't have an opinion. The main thing is just what would y'all like to do? I'm letting you know what's required, what isn't.
If we're going to, I see nothing wrong with having with not special, just for, but you have to at least they would have to, even if no one shows up, they would so, but that's up to the council.
Which is to say,
I think we should announce it and provide that opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, they'll show up or they won't. Talk to them, what they do.
No, well, but it's
But
giving
give them the opportunity. Oh, yeah, I think everyone deserves an opportunity to do that.
That's
I think though, before you do that, you need to actually arrive at real, this is what we want.
Oh, absolutely,
Before you
but,
invite the public,
we want,
we're
yeah.
We're running out of days.
I know, but
So I like what I see sitting on there right now. I think it's reasonable, in my opinion. I think it serves the purpose.
We can run it the same nights we do the public hearings for the tax rate.
And that will be about when?
We have one every Monday night this
Next
week,
Monday?
this month.
Next Monday.
Next Monday.
Next Monday.
And the council
I'm
too.
kind of a quick question, and maybe, I'm not sure we can get it done in time, but for these rates to be effective October 1st, we'd obviously need to approve an ordinance on the rate prior to October 1st. So I guess just kind of make you aware of that. We can try to get it before you Tuesday at the regularly scheduled meeting.
could you review it on Monday and then
Can we not just have?
public review on
we
Monday
have more
and
than
then
one
pass it
time
on Tuesday?
Sure, yes.
We can have more than one time meeting.
We can later on in the month.
And that way you know.
Since we're getting down to more specific questions, we're not gonna keep breaking it up. We'll have the general fund and the enterprise fund the same night.
I do have one question. We really aren't providing this for all of Grayson County, are we? I went to the, if we open this up to all of the residents of Grayson County, our household hazardous waste, I went to Sherman's, I did an estate sale there, and they only have, this is like, we're having a 3-hour window for all the hazardous waste, and we're providing this for everyone in Grayson County. In Sherman alone, it's a 4-block rate even when it opens. If we open this, why do we have to do it for everyone in Grayson County? Why is it not just for the city of Van
Because
Alstyne?
we provide services not just to the citizens of Van Alstyne, but also residents who live outside the city. TCEQ recommended that we open it up to them.
So that means we've opened it up to Sherman, Denison, White Rock, everybody. Gunner, Pompey.
didn't you say there was $10,000?
I hit $32,000.
$10,000 an hour. He said,
Yep.
yeah, the guy will tell Steve, we're done, and they've got to close the gate. And if people still have stuff, then
So
they got to
there's
hang
no
on to it.
priority to Van Alstyne. Just
First in line, first come, first served.
What is it?
That's
our
fine.
hazardous waste collection, we have 3 hours on October the 5th,
That
but
is,
it's open to everybody in the county.
That's an
We're
offset
providing
of,
for the county.
that's the offset of us being fined instead of paying monetary value to do this instead.
It's cost us the same dollars.
But it's something we have to do. Do other towns not have to do it?
If they hadn't got fined, they probably don't.
If they haven't got what, fine.
Fine.
This is a part of our waste plant fee for fine from that.
I understand that. I just did not understand the fact that Sherman can have it for Sherman and other towns can have it for them, and we have it for the entire county.
Sherman didn't allow anybody else in there?
No,
Okay.
no.
Good question. Good question.
I did an estate sale. I had to go to the city to prove that it was from the house at the estate sale I was doing it at, and not from Van Alstyne. So I know for a fact, theirs isn't, no one is allowed except there. And you gotta have that special, unless you're the one name that's on the water bill, you have to have it.
This is our penance. Again, when we're talking to TCEQ, they said, do you provide services? And I said, you know, what does the flyer need to say? They told us that's the flyer. I said, okay, so, you know, what I put Van Alstyne, what I put, and they go, well, you provide services strictly to Van Alstyne. I said, no, we have people out in the county who provide services to. They said, we don't do it.
But that's just in the school district, isn't it? That we provide the services.
There's areas, yes, ma'am. I mean, you're right, we don't serve the whole county, but what they stated was you need to open up the whole county.
In madhouse that day. Yeah.
Anybody want to volunteer?
No, thank you. Probably won't get it done.
Yeah, I got plenty of vests.
Well, I get to wear a pretty green.
I may need a police escort when I get ready to leave and cut this up the gates.
Really?
Where'd that flyer go out to? Just
I received it on my computer. Yeah, I got it by email. It was in.
They went in the local paper, and we got the flyers, and so we're not trying to distribute. I haven't sent them to any of the county or anything like that. So we're trying to keep it, even though we open it up to the county, we're not we're handing those flyers to people who come pay the bills and things like that. We're not trying to get them out. We're not, you know, we didn't put it in Herald Democrat. We're not trying to broadcast it anymore. So the main thing is we're just trying to comply. We want this to be the only time that we have to do something like this, and just keep moving forward.
Okay. I know I asked this before, but are there any more questions or discussion regarding the enterprise fund? If not, is there a motion that we adjourn? A motion is made by Councilman Smith that we adjourn, seconded by John Jennings. All of those, any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. We are officially adjourned at 9:14. I did have one other question. Not with him, but behind, I received a letter complaining about all of the jungle behind Jack in the Box textiles in Georgia. Have we ever contacted them to see if we're on their schedule?
I don't know how to do it, but it could make your.
Is there any way we can get to it? I got an email from a lady who signed herself at Mosquito Haven. And she said it's because of the creek behind there, they live on Jefferson.
It's holding water, Steve, we're going to throw tablets. If it's holding water, Steve will throw tablets in there, but if, as far as clearing it out, we don't have that big yard.
Well, I know that textiles really is supposed to do that, but perhaps something could be done to cut down on the mosquito roads back there. And it really looks bad when you go to Jack in the Box, or we're gonna have a business out there.
Oh, yeah. You could have, I mean, we actually did it as a courtesy because of we didn't violate charges or do anything outside. You could have, but then you don't have both of them.
you go in that way.
Yeah, then you'd be fine.
Yeah, what years
Good seeing you.
So did you make it survive the weekend?
Oh, yeah.
In the heat, I was thinking of you as I was by the swimming pool, yeah.